Hello everyone. I'm here to present post-dural puncture headache management. So on a lighter note, this is supposed to be a picture of a patient suffering from PDPH and not that of an anesthetist managing PDPH. We all know what is PDPH. It is the potential complication of a dural puncture caused by persistent CSF leak causing traction on neural structures, and there is also compensatory vasodilatation. All of this cause headache and other symptoms. So, what are the IHS criteria for diagnosis of PDPH? It occurs after dural puncture, obviously. It develops within 5 days of lumbar puncture. It worsens within 15 minutes after sitting or standing and improves within 15 minutes after lying down, and is associated with either neck stiffness, tinnitus, hypoacusia, photophobia, or nausea. It either resolves spontaneously in 1 week or within 48 hours after effective treatment. The usual onset time is after 24 hours to 48 hours post dural puncture. These are the neural pathways of PDPH. Ophthalmic branch of trigeminal nerve will cause frontal head pain. C1 to C3 and cranial nerves 9, 10 are responsible for neck, shoulder, and occipital pain. Vagus is responsible for nausea. The cochlear-duct communication is responsible for auditory and vestibular symptoms. Cranial nerves 3, 4, 6 will cause visual symptoms, and parasympathetic induced vasodilatation is also in part responsible for PDPH. So what are the preventive measures? I will just go through it quickly because we want to focus on the management part. We can divide the preventive measures into 3 parts: techniques with supportive evidence, techniques with no proven evidence, and techniques that need more evidence. So the techniques with proven evidence are use of higher gauge needles, use of automatic or pencil point needles, orientation of bevel parallel to dural fibers, and replacing the stellate prior to removal of the spinal needle. So we all are following all these techniques. These techniques I'm not going through right now. So before going to PDPH, we can see what is not PDPH. That is more important because when a call comes in a post-operative patient who has undergone spinal anesthesia, that patient is having headaches. So we have to at least briefly know on history that it is PDPH. It can be PDPH or it cannot be PDPH. So what is not PDPH? So headache with no postural component, it almost rules out PDPH. Within 15 minutes of lying down, if the symptoms do not decrease, then it is not PDPH. Other than PDPH, the postural component is only present in pneumoencephalus. And in no other case of post-operative headaches, the postural component is seen other than pneumoencephalus and PDPH. So that will rule out PDPH. Onset immediately after surgery will rule out PDPH. On the same day, if patient complains of headache, it is not PDPH. So associated neurological signs or neurodeficit or associated signs of inflammation, infection such as fever will point to some other diagnosis. So urgent neuroimaging and neuroconsultation is a must in such cases. Differential diagnosis of PDPH we can just go through quickly. Tension headache, migraine, pregnancy related hypertension which can go on till 10 days also, subdural hematoma which is very important to exclude, meningitis, intracranial pathologies, cerebral edema, Press syndrome, cerebral aneurysm, arachnoiditis, pneumoencephalus, cerebral venous thrombosis, postnatal depression headache, benign intracranial hypertension, and sinusitis, and many other headaches. But these are the main differentials. So if still you suspect that it is a PDPH, then what are the guidelines for management? So if in a suspected PDPH, please discuss with consultant anesthesiologist as soon as possible. Any suspicion about diagnosis, we have to take help of neuroconsultation and neuroimaging. Reassurance, counseling, communication is obviously very important because the pain is very severe and patient fears that something has gone wrong with his brain or so while painful, we have to tell the patient that while it is painful, PDPH is usually not dangerous and often self-limiting and can be treated also. So discuss all the available treatment modalities and the success rate, and also provide a plan of action. We have to remember that PDPH is third most common cause of litigation in obstetric anesthesia in Western countries after maternal mortality and newborn brain damage. So with the counseling and all, we have to start conservative management. It aims at the symptomatic relief when the dural tear heals by itself. So posture, bed rest, we all know it gives symptomatic relief, though there is no supportive therapeutic benefit. Hydration, we have to take care that patient should never be dehydrated. So at least 2 ml per kg per hour fluids, IV or oral, should be given. Analgesics, paracetamol and NSAIDs, if not contraindicated, are usually enough for mild cases. Antiemetics are also useful because PDPH is often associated with nausea. Targeted drugs are caffeine, which we will see in next slide. Pregabalin, oral 75 or 150 mg tablet, maximum 300 mg per day we can give. Sumatriptan, which is 5-HT agonist, can also be used in PDPH. It is oral 50 or 100 mg tablet, maximum 200 mg per day. Subcut is not available here. So we come to caffeine, which is the mainstay of conservative management of PDPH. Caffeine, as PDPH results in part due to cerebral vasodilatation, caffeine being a cerebral vasoconstrictor is found effective. So the dose is 300 to 500 mg oral or IV. But at such high doses, patient also has side effects like arrhythmias, palpitations, or sometimes convulsions. So we go slowly on the dose. So we use tablet Crocin pain relief, which is available in our pharmacy. It contains paracetamol 650 and caffeine anhydrous 50 mg. We can start with BD or TDS and maximum 300 mg per day. Alternatively, we can also suggest caffeine-containing beverages as an alternative to medicated caffeine. So this is, I think, the only part where only occasion when anesthetists will advise coffee to others and instead of drinking themselves. So these are the average caffeine contents of beverages. So 200 ml cup of instant coffee contains 120 milligram of caffeine. Can of Coke contains only 35, so coffee is better. So if all the conservative management fails even after 24 hours, then we can go for a less invasive nerve blocks. Those are spinopalatal ganglion block and greater occipital nerve block. So coming to spinopalatal ganglion block, this is located in pterygopalatine fossa, and blocking that ganglion provides symptomatic relief by blocking the parasympathetic induced cerebral vasodilatation. There are many approaches: transnasal, transoral, subzygomatic, but transnasal is easier and least invasive, so we use that. So 1.5 ml of 4% lignocaine can be applied through each nostril. We just need a long applicator with a cotton tip. So that long applicator with cotton swab soaked in local anesthetic is inserted upwards in the floor of nose until resistance is encountered. At this point, the tip is at the posterior pharyngeal wall, superior to middle turbinate. So retain it there for 5 minutes and repeat the procedure on other nostril. So we can see that the cotton tip doesn't make physical contact with the ganglion. The drug reaches the ganglion by gravity. Alternatively, we can also use 2 cotton tipped hollow applicators and inject 4% lignocaine through it. Onset of pain relief is approximately after 1 hour. This is greater occipital nerve block. So it is the main sensory nerve of occipital region. Sensory fibers from C2 to C3. So we can inject 2 ml of 2% lignocaine and 1 ml of Dexa, 3 ml on each side. The injection point is the junction of medial 1/3 and lateral 2/3 of the line joining occipital protuberance and mastoid process. Also, we can block the lesser occipital nerve, which is just lateral to the greater occipital nerve. So Sonali madam will be covering epidural blood patch, which is actually the gold standard of treatment of PDPH. If all these treatments fail, then we should go for epidural blood patch, because all these treatment modalities only focus on symptomatic relief. Epidural blood patch focuses on healing sealing the hole in the dura. So that is the gold standard. So I will just go through quickly the PDPH flow chart of management. So in a suspected PDPH, anesthesiologist should be involved as early as possible. Neuroconsultation and neuroimaging should be taken whenever we feel there is any doubt about a diagnosis. In established PDPH, we should start conservative management. Counseling reassurance obviously has to be there. Daily review by anesthetist has to be there. If there is relief by conservative management, then monitor and watch for recurrence. If no relief, we can go for spinopalatal ganglion block or greater occipital nerve block. If there is no relief with that also, then we should go for epidural blood patch, which has a very high success rate, around 99%. Even if with epidural blood patch the pain is not relieved, then we should again go back to neuroconsultation and look out for other differential diagnosis. At all these points, we should maintain the documentation perfect so as to protect us from any future litigation. So I'll just introduce the idea of blood patch. This is a crazy idea, injecting autologous blood of the patient into the patient's own epidural space. So who had this idea? Supposedly observation by certain neurologists that bloodied spinal taps resulted in less headaches. So this gave rise to further research, and then epidural blood patch came into actual therapeutic practice after 1960s and 70s. So after talking so much about caffeine, I wanted to share this also. I hope you have a good laugh. Thank you so much. Thank you.